welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel, the owner and creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. Happy Sunday, everyone. Before we get to today's video, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who supported my small business by placing an order for the new Redesign with Prima release in the past few days. It is so appreciated, so thank you very much. For today's video, I have a thrift flip for you. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I hope you guys really like it too. And without further ado, let's get to today's project. For today's video, I am working on these two little nesting tables that I picked up recently at the Goodwill. I decided I really wanted to use these in one of my Christmas displays, so I needed to get them done. These guys are really cute. They're solid wood, but the finish on the top of both of them had pretty much had it. It was really starting to fade. So I am beginning this project by sanding down the tops of both tables. I started with some 100 grit sandpaper to really get down into the wood, and then I went over them with some 150 grit sandpaper just to smooth them out a bit. Then I brought them back into my kitchen, and to clean the tops and condition them for some stain, I'm just going over them with some mineral spirits. Now I knew for the top of these, I wanted to add a transfer. So I really didn't want my tops to be very dark because I wanted my transfer to really stand out. Now I had decided that I really wanted to use one of the stains that I already had on hand. I picked them up at estate sales, so I have several, but most of them are pretty dark. So this was the lightest one I could find. It's called American Walnut, and I am just applying it with a shop towel and then wiping back the excess pretty quickly to try and keep it as light as I possibly can. Once I'd finished putting a pretty good coat of stain on the tops of both of my little tables, I realized there were a couple patches, mainly along the edge, where it looked like I hadn't sanded quite well enough to go completely into the wood, and so the stain really wasn't soaking in like it should. So in those areas, I just took a little bit more sandpaper, and by hand, I went over them and then added a little bit more stain just to those spots. Once my stain was completely dry, I went ahead and sealed both of my tables, and for that I'm using General Finishes Flat Out Flat. As you can see, my can is almost empty, and I was really hoping to use up the rest of the little bit that I had left. So I'm just adding that with this sponge applicator, making sure I've got a nice, smooth, even coat on both of my tables. As my top coat was drying, I kept looking at these little tables, and I wasn't really happy with the color that they had turned out with the stain. They were a little orange and honestly a little darker than I wanted. So I decided to try and rectify that. I would go over them with a paint wash. So I took DIY's Cottage color called Plaster. I mixed it about half and half with water, and I am just applying that in a thin coat over the top of the stain and the finish, and then I am wiping back the excess with a dry shop towel. Now, in all honesty, I really did not know if this was going to work or not, but when I finished the first table and I put them side by side, I really did like the effect of the wash. It lightened things up just a little and took away some of the kind of orangey color. So I thought this ended up being a really good solution to my problem. Once my paint wash was completely dry, I went over both tables with another coat of the sealer just to make sure that everything was well protected before moving on to my next step. Now, as you probably could have guessed, I am going to be painting the bases of these tables, but before I do that, I wanted to make sure everything was nice and clean. So I'm taking some crud cutter and just spraying everything down really well and then wiping back that with a dry shop towel. And once I had finished with the crud cutter, I am grabbing my water mister bottle and I am going over both tables with some clean water just to make sure that any crud cutter residue that was left is all gone before I start painting. Now I knew as soon as I bought these little nesting tables that I would probably paint the bases of them a dark color just to give them a little bit more weight and presence. And since I'm going to be using them in my Christmas display, I decided that dark color should probably be black. I use some black in my Christmas decor along with some creams, whites, beiges, browns, and pops of green. So I thought black would be a perfect complement for all of that. So I'm going in with a couple coats of Sweet Pickins Milk Paint in the color Lantern, which is this beautiful, very true black. And for my milk paint, I did add the recommended amount of extra bond because I really didn't want any chippiness on these tables, and I did go over them with 2 good coats of the paint. Once my paint was completely dry, I took both of the tables outside and lightly sanded them with some 220 grit sandpaper. I'm going over all of the surfaces to knock any chunks down that might have been left from the milk paint, and I'm also doing a little bit of distressing around the edges and over some of the details just to bring back a little bit of that light tone from underneath this dark black paint and give these pieces just a little bit more detail and dimension. Once I had my paint nice and smooth and I was happy with how my distressing was looking, I brought my tables back inside to wipe them down and get rid of any of that sanding dust. This step was especially important for the tops of the tables because I'm going to be adding transfers and it is really difficult to add a transfer to a dusty surface. So I definitely wanted to make sure that they were nice and clean. Now, if you follow this channel, you know that I just received the new release from Redesign with Prima. This was one of the transfers in that release. It's called the Rosy Nest, and I knew as soon as I saw it that I wanted to use it on something, and these nesting tables seemed like a perfect candidate. So at first, it took me a while to figure out exactly how I wanted to configure my transfers on the tables, especially since there were 2 of them and one goes under the other. It made it just a little bit more difficult. But once I played with the configuration for a bit, I finally figured out exactly how I wanted them to look. And so I just began applying them one by one to the tops of the tables. Now, you've probably noticed I don't do a lot of pieces with red in them, but for whatever reason, I really was drawn to the bits of red in this transfer set. I just think it's so pretty, and it's just enough red that it will be beautiful with my Christmas decor, but it's not so much that it's overpowering, which I love. So I'm just going in one by one and applying each transfer exactly where I want it. And then this set comes with these adorable little birds. And so once I've got my bigger pieces down, I'm going back in with some of those birds and adding those over the top. Applying transfers is such a simple process. You just peel the backer off, you lay your transfer down where you want it, you use the included transfer stick to rub the transfer down into your project while you peel back the piece of vellum. The key is just going slow and being patient and making sure that all of your transfer is adhered as you go. Once you have your transfer completely applied, you want to take a little piece of that vellum and just rub it really well over the top of the transfer. This will help burnish it in, which means making sure there aren't any air bubbles or wrinkles and that it is really well seated into your project. Once I was finished with the larger table and I was happy with how it looked, I moved on to applying some transfers to the smaller of the nesting tables as well. Once I had all of my transfers applied, it was finally time to seal my little nesting tables. And for that, I'm using DIY's clear wax. I'm going over the tops to help protect those transfers. It's always a good idea to go over your transfers with some kind of a top coat just for that reason, so that they are somewhat protected. And once I've done the top, I'm going over the entire base with a good even coat of that clear wax. I'm just applying it with a soft bristle brush and then using a dry shop towel to wipe back the excess wax. Once I was finished waxing my little nesting tables, they're finally finished. I absolutely love the way they came out. I think they will be a perfect addition to my Christmas displays, and I really hope you guys like them too. Well, that is it from here for today, you guys. What did you think of my little nesting table makeover? I absolutely love the way that they turned out. I think that they will be a great little statement piece all year long, not just for Christmas. And I'm really looking forward to getting to use them in my Christmas displays, which, you guys, it's only a couple weeks away that I'm going to be starting to switch things over to Christmas. I just can't believe it. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I would really love it if you would subscribe to my channel and then just hit the little notification bell so you don't miss anything. And then, of course, don't forget to drop a comment below and let me know what you thought of today's project. Just a quick reminder too, the paint and products you see me use can be purchased through me at my website, and that is www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. I carry DIY paint and products, as well as Sweet Pickins Milk Paint and products. And just a quick reminder, the color of the month for Sweet Pickins is creamy, and I did just get more in stock. It is 35% off through October 31st. I also carry some Recycled Treasures decoupage papers, and of course Redesign with Prima. And as I'm sure you saw, we did get in a new release just a couple of days ago. Some beautiful new things available on my website, so be sure to check all that out at www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. Let's see, for next Thursday's video, or this Thursday's video, I am hoping to have some more thrift flips for you guys. I've been working diligently on a couple more projects, so fingers crossed they will be ready to go for that video. Until then, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Sunday and beginning of the week. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you can join me back here on Sunday. Bye. Or Thursday. Bye.